You know, when TEDxINCAE asked me to join this TEDx program, they told me the topic for this year is the disruption in paradigms. And I thought, that's perfect for me. I feel I've been disrupting paradigms my entire career. So I'll tell you a little bit about it. I started my career out of college with a bachelor's in business, and I became an auditor at Arthur Andersen. I did that for 3 years, and I thought, this is great, but I think I can help my clients in a different way. Not just look at the historical information, but let's see if we can help them a different way. So one of my partners and I decided we want to change what we were doing. And I was from a small town in Michigan, in a small office where we had no consulting practice. So we decided we would start our own consulting practice at Arthur Andersen. There, we had clients like Kmart and other large corporations that were interested in doing mergers and acquisitions. So I redefined my skills, I redefined my activities, and started servicing clients in mergers and acquisitions. That was another 3 years. Then I thought, I need a change again. We have to shift the paradigm again. So I said, what am I going to do? I need to leave Michigan, I need to move to a bigger community, and I need to do a different thing. So I left Arthur Andersen. I went to PricewaterhouseCoopers and joined the corporate investigations practice. This is where I found my true place in corporate investigations. At first, I was looking at accounting investigations for board of directors and audit committees, and those investigations were heavily involved fraud, embezzlement, managing earnings, adjusting financial statements, all things like that. But very quickly, after 2 or 3 years of doing accounting investigations, I realized that most of the fraud investigations I was looking at dealt with corruption. Corruption represented nearly half of the investigations that we were doing starting in the early 2000s, which this study is from 2016. Even to this day, more than half of fraud schemes involve corruption. What is corruption? Well, it takes place in many different forms, but a couple of the key ways that most large corporations do corrupt activities is they'll bid rig. What is a bid rig? It's when one of my clients, I'll give you a perfect example. One of my clients was looking to buy the telecom landlines from the government of an Eastern European country. And that client of mine put a bid to buy those landlines, and the bid that they said that they would pay was the lowest of all of the other companies' bids, and yet they were the winner. How did they win? Why would the government not want to have more money from another buyer? How did they win? Because they paid consultants who then transferred money to government agents, and those government agents allowed my client to win this bid. And unfortunately, corruption exists that way. There's other ways you can do it. Sometimes you can overcharge a client. Sometimes you can get a kickback from a distributor or an agent. But corruption happens in lots of different ways. And when I was teaching my staff about corruption and how we can identify it in transactions, one of them said to me, you know, I get it that we need to investigate corruption and big corporations shouldn't be allowed to move it forward and get ahead by using corruption to move forward. But how does it affect me? Well, it affects every one of us in society. When large corporations and even small companies pay bribes to move forward in their business, they're paying bribes to local agents, government agents, and what happens? You know, you have less justice. Justice is delayed. Healthcare is weaker because more money is being spent on the ones paying the bribes. Obviously, the tax rates are going to be higher because the monies to cover these bribes are paid by the others. Also, crime is increased because the corrupt politicians and the corrupt police are not going after the crime the way they should be because they're busy trying to get bribes. And the most, I think, significant impact is on the infrastructure of the global economy. our roads, our water, our air, all of the things that government funds should be spent on get detracted when corrupt activities occur. And so whether a large corporation pays bribes to win a land deal, and that actually does have an impact on every one of us. So there's been a paradigm change in the last 10 years, in my opinion, about how corruption has changed and how the enforcers are making a change, how the companies are making a change, and how the consultants that help investigate these crimes are making a change. So here's the first change. In 1977, President Jimmy Carter signed the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. That was the very first anti-corruption act of its kind. That was in the US. Since then, there's corruption acts exploding all around the world. The entire global economy is concerned about this. The enforcers are going after this globally, and they're cooperating with each other. So the Brazilian government is cooperating with the Department of Justice. The Mexican government is cooperating with the Brazilian government. It's a significant change, and that's only been occurring in the last several years. The other thing, I'm sure you all may have heard about the Petrobras bribery scheme. That was $9.5 billion of money that affects the entire global economy, and in particular Brazil. It was the largest scheme of all time. Companies are becoming more and more aggressive, and the enforcers are becoming more and more aggressive. Here's how they did it. Petrobras paid the government, they paid oil and construction companies, and the citizens of Brazil suffered. And the citizens of the global economy also suffer. But what are they doing? Companies are now getting benefits for cooperating with enforcers. You look at the potential fines that Petrobras could be $3 billion. But look at other companies that are cooperating with the government. Their fines are significantly lower because they're cooperating, and the enforcers are accepting compliance plans, remediation plans, and other well-to-do things to help clean up the environment. So the amount of penalties for cooperating companies is nearly half. But here's where I think there's the most significant change. The companies, the enforcers, and their counsel, their outside service providers, need to investigate this kind of activity. How do you find the corrupt payments? It's very difficult to find the corrupt payments. When I started my career many, many years ago, when I did my first anti-corruption investigation, I was looking at Excel files, using my expertise to hone in on certain vendors that I thought, why are they paying this consultant? What do you think that payment is for? And I had to use my own judgment and my own expertise to sort of weed through details and details in Excel files. Well, the companies are so large these days, and there's so much massive amounts of data available these days that it's not possible for a single human or a team of humans to eyeball data of that magnitude, so we have to rely on technology to assist us. And lucky for us, there's a lot of amazing technology available that uses artificial intelligence, that uses data analytics, that uses all kinds of data processing, so that I can take my expertise, program a machine to understand what qualifiers I'm looking for. What kind of vendors do I think make bribe payments? I think it's consultants, it's agents, it's distributors, sometimes it's business development partners. I think those are the ones. Also, if I were to record a bribe payment, how would I record that? On my financial statements? I would say maybe I would record it as marketing, or maybe I would record it as operational expenses other, or some other thing. I can program my artificial intelligence to identify that kind of activity, and I can use my years and years of experience and apply that over large databases. How is the companies benefiting from that? Well, before, and I'm talking about 15 years ago, enforcers would go to a company and say, we want to investigate you. And a company would say, okay, I don't know what to do, and they would call their outside counsel, and they would call some forensic accountant like myself, and we were working in vacuums, completely separately. The regulators would talk to the corporations would talk to us. Now, the paradigm has changed. Because more companies are cooperating with the enforcers, and they have the luxury of consultants and lawyers that have tons of experience in investigating this kind of behavior and in communicating with the enforcers, we have a three-way channel now. And I think that's a significant impact in the fact that the enforcers have gotten to know the service providers, they can rely on the work that the service providers are doing, and the companies can know that they're being properly defended by someone who has diligently reviewed their financial statements. So some of the tools have changed. We used to use calculators and Excel files, but now we've got the artificial intelligence. And the ways that we do work has changed. You know, there's a lot of information out there that's in social media, that's on Facebook, that's in email, that's in other communications. And it is so difficult to put those stories together. Like in a case where I had a transaction in a general ledger that was a payment for $1 million. And separately, one of the senior executives of the company had written an email saying, I'm going to put this expense and I'm going to stuff it up my sleeve. Well, to find that email and that expense and the contract that goes with it and the other correspondence that goes with it, it was a manual task historically. Now, with artificial intelligence and with the data analytics, we can bring those data points together rapidly and to the benefit of our clients and put together a story very quickly. And that is how I believe the paradigm of corporate investigations has changed in the last 10 to 15 years.